for sake of time, we're not going to go through the motions of showing you what needs to happen on the other side, other than, like we mentioned earlier in the video, the passenger side tire does need to come off after you've broken the CV axle nut free. Because the only thing that needs to happen on this side is we just need to take off the tie rod and then remove the assembly the same way we just did on that side, so that we're not trying to finagle, a nearly 3.5 foot piece of part coming out. So let's take off the tie rod assembly on this side, and that's it. Everything else stays intact other than the tie rod and the sway bar link, because again, we need to disassemble it or disconnect it on this side so that we can swing this sway bar out of the way to get the rack out. Moving on. I disconnected the sway bar on the passenger side, and this is what I mean when we rotate that sway bar out of the way. Now, with yours may not stay up because you may have old sway bar bushings. We're not going to discuss that right now. That's another video. I've replaced my sway bar bushings with polyurethane, brand new, just about a week ago. So the sway bar stays in place. Yours starts to move down because of gravity. All you have to do is just tie a little piece of rope here to the subframe, keep this thing out of the way. So when we now start focusing on the CV axle, as you can see, if that were in its natural position, we wouldn't be able to get it out, the rack that is. It's out of the way also, so you can understand, we're gonna get a shot of it, but I don't have the clearance with this CV axle in the way, which is why it needs to come out of there. Once this comes out, we are nearing home free of the disassembly portion. I don't think we're gonna have time, really based on my brother's schedule, to see the truck go back together. But if you watch this video a few times, hopefully he's gonna edit in his professional manner, and you'll see the process kind of all in one portion. It's the reverse process. Put it back together, go get your alignment, and be back on the road. Let's move on, bro. All right. Okay, so I'm taking off the tie rod on the other side, but I'm not using the tie rod tool. I'm going to use the pipe wrench, and you can see that it works. See that? So that's how you can use your pipe wrench, if you have the clearance. There we go. Get my adjustable pliers here and remove this tie rod in the same manner that I did the other side. Again, can you get it out of here with this assembled? I'm sure you can. But I'm not taking a chance on my new parts, and I like, even though I'm going through, what might seem to you as, oh, well, you don't have to do that. I like simple work. I don't want to get frustrated and start, using every profane word possible because I've made a job tougher for myself, all because of stubbornness, because I don't want to remove stuff and try to take shortcuts. I don't take shortcuts, and neither should you. Shortcuts is unsafe, and just like playing a game of basketball, or I'm sorry, 21. You play 21, you're gonna sprain your ankle. It's just gonna happen. So go through the effort, remove the parts, make the job easy, not fast. All right, we've got that side taken off, and again, that's the only thing we need to remove from this side. So we can now move on to, I'm almost certain that this is the steering position sensor. I could be wrong, but whatever it is, this connector needs to come off. So, in the same manner that we did before, can you see that there? We have our little clip. We're just gonna push in, kind of go down a little bit and just pull it out. We don't want to damage. Put that over our subframe, get it out of the way, okay? I believe, so let me explain. This is the replacement from the obviously the bad one that I took out. This did not come with this, so you can see it's held on with two little long skinny bolts. I had to remove this from the old part, put it on the refurbished part. The new one that I'm getting, or the new remand that I'm getting, has this already on there. So I'm just going to leave this in place, and where we're going to move to next is to getting this CV axle out. But what I want to point out is, brother, can you see here? Okay, that's good enough. So this is where our steering shaft is connected to the rack. This bolt here, let me see if I can get the light on there. You can see that pretty good. This little bolt needs to come out. There's nothing on the other side. It's got enough, I guess, pinch, if you want to call it, that once you run it in, it stays in place. It's not held on with Loctite or anything. We need to remove this, and then at the point when we get to that point, what I'm going to do is have my brother go up and make sure that our steering wheel doesn't move when I pry this off. Pry that shaft off, because we want to keep that steering wheel straight. All right. And also, when I get the CV axle out, and here I'm getting to the exciting part, at least what's exciting to me, then I'll have enough room once I take out our retaining bolts that's keeping this rack in place, because there's two banjo bolts that we've got to get off. One is here, one is, can you see that? Where I'm pointing, you don't have to see it right now, but at least you can see where my pointer is. We got one banjo bolt there, and there's one kind of above it, if you will. It's above, but it's behind. Once we can move this down, we'll have the clearance to get those off. And I actually wanted to make another comment, because I want to kind of correct something that I said when I said, put it back together in the reverse manner. You do need to have power steering fluid. Because at this point, you don't want to introduce contaminated old power steering fluid, because that's generally what kills these things anyways. Aside from, we're not going to discuss the inner workings of a rack, but it's actually fairly simple. It's really just a bunch of seals. Once they go bad, it loses its purpose, if you will, but it's degraded by bad fluid. So ultimately, as much as I like to blame the person or the company where I bought this rack from, who knows? We could have prolonged the life of this rack if we do upfront preventive maintenance. So keep in mind, we're doing all of this work probably because the power steering fluid was never changed. Fluids are very important as preventive maintenance. So basically what you're comparing is, I'm just going off the top of my head, let's just call it $100 job for a power steering fluid flush to prolong the life of our part. What are we talking about? Things that use fluid. Transmission, which a lot of people overlook. Differentials, which a lot of people overlook. Transfer cases, which a lot of people overlook. The cost of a fluid change compared to this job, $100 versus several thousand. Keep your fluids changed frequently, probably even a little bit sooner than what the manufacturer suggests. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna ramble on here, but where I am now is, I'm not gonna grab the camera, but here's our subframe here, okay? And we have two retaining bolts, which is an E14, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull out here. Yes, E14, but it's the star type of bolt, okay? Not you know what our traditional bolts look like. So I think you understand what I'm saying here. It's the E14, and let me just keep the camera rolling. Actually, while I'm doing this, make a little comment about fluids. Going back to fluids, especially with transmission. You know, you got manufacturers saying, "Oh, well, the transmission's sealed for life." It's not true. What we're referring to when we say sealed, it's sealed from you. The average DIYer doesn't. Oh, you know what? I apologize. There's actually, I forgot. There's a nut on the other side and it's spinning, so I just need to get a box wrench or something on the other side. But what I'm saying is, you know, just kind of get back to the fluid. It's sealed from you. A lot of people don't understand or have the knowledge of the proper refill procedure for transmission fluid, and they wind up doing it wrong. It burns their transmission out. So at the manufacturer level, we took that away from you. That's what sealed for life means. It doesn't mean that the transmission fluid never needs to be changed. It's just sealed to protect you from burning the transmission out. So I'm gonna move on. Like I said, I'm gonna get I think it's this one. And again, we're not gonna bring the camera in, but is that helping any? The light? Okay. Here's one bolt here, and on the other side, which is through this little opening right here, you can see the nut on the other side. Again, all we need to do is just get, I've got an offset wrench here, and I can get in there just to hold that. And then you've got your other retaining bolt the same way. I may not be able to get my offset in there, but as it turns out, I can. But if you don't have an offset, that's what I mean by an offset. It's not just a straight wrench. Find whatever you can get in there to hold that nut on the other side, keep it from spinning, run the bolts out. Moving on. We'll be back. Okay. All right, now, I know we showed a quick shot, but we've got our bolts out of the rack. See there? Getting free, but we've got a few more things. Got to get this retaining nut. Oh, I didn't switch my socket. And we've got that same sort of star patterned bolt, which is the same as I showed you there. So we have what do we have? What do you have? That's an E12 socket. Got a little extension. We're just gonna loosen it first. Alrighty. Let's see if I have it loose enough to just use the extension. No, I don't. Because as I mentioned before, at this point now, I'm gonna have Videographer Supreme to go up top and hold that steering wheel to make sure that it doesn't move. And the reason that's important, the reason I'm having him hold that, is we don't now want that steering wheel to just move freely. There's what's called a clock spring in there. So one of the purposes of a clock spring, if you don't know, is it's an assembly, if you will. when you put your turns, or when you put your indicator, I hate turn signal. Turn doesn't mean you're always turning, right? But when you put your indicator on and it cancels, that's that clock spring working. That's just one of the actions that it does. But it's that the inside of the steering wheel, what I'm getting at, it's full of electronics. We don't want it spinning freely and, you know, breaking something or breaking the wire, because now we've got a bigger problem. We either need a clock spring or an entire steering wheel. So I think I have this free enough now. And of course, we don't want our steering wheel to be off. We want it to stay pretty much where it was. I can still use the ratchet. They get the point. Here is our little bolt. Got that out. And now we can work off the steering shaft. So at this point, I'm gonna ask our trusty videographer here to go up and hold that steering wheel. Make sure that it doesn't move, please. Thank you. Steering wheel is straight.
Steering wheel is straight.
How about you show them that we've now disconnected from the rack and pinion. So what I just want you to show them is that they don't need to be overly concerned that once that shaft disconnects, that the steering wheel just might go willy-nilly. You see it's straight, right? It's not moving?
No.
Okay, we're good to go. Come on back. All right, so I'm pointing this out for reassembly purposes. Okay, this is where that bolt went through, and like I said, once it goes through, it kind of cinches up. All right, so it doesn't need anything on the other side. All right, it's splined. I'm not sure if you can see that, okay, but just keep that in mind. It's splined. The splines need to line up with the teeth. If you can see where I'm pointing here, you can see those little teeth there. Needs to line up with those teeth. But you can also see that there's a little dust cover here. And it's got this ridge, okay? That ridge needs to go, or the shaft needs to go through, or however it's working out. Maybe I'm just confusing myself. You get what I'm saying here though. Needs to go through this little bridge here, okay? So just keep that in mind for reassembly portion, or not portion, for reassembly purpose, rather. Okay, we are at the home stretch. Now we need to get to what I think is the most exciting part of tearing a car apart. It's getting this CV axle out. We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna set up my old CV axle and show you what we're trying to overcome and why it's, I don't wanna say so difficult to get out, but why it takes the effort that it does to get it out of there. So we'll be back.